I'm Jen Rubinetti, wellness embodiment coach, sound healer, and somatic guide.
And I'm Joanna and Jen, mindset mentor, high performance coach, and two-time author.
Every week, we bring you real people sharing honest truth about their path to more peace, passion, and power.
The tools, the turns, the breakthroughs.
And we don't just talk about it, we practice it together.
Breathwork, meditation, somatic movement, right here with you.
This is Regulate to Elevate from the founders of Be Collective. Joanna, we're back.
We are so back.
We are so back. Tonight is a very special episode, as you know. We have a very special guest on who I'm very excited about. Do you want to tell us who it is?
Well, I'll preface it by saying normally we cannot pick favorites when it comes to our guests, but in this case, I think you should pick a favorite.
Okay, well, she is someone that I hold near and dear to my heart and someone I have quite a very strong connection with. She is my sister, Marissa Rubinetti.
That is so exciting. Now, is there anything you want to do for us to get in state before we let your sister in on the podcast?
Yes. Hold the phone, please. I'm going to make it nice and quiet in here. Okay. So I want to do our usual somatic practice before our podcast, phenomenal everything. Tonight, we're going to do something that's a little different.
Ooh.
Before we bring our guest in, we are starting with something your nervous system may desperately need if you've been holding everything in all day, which I have. I've had one of those days. You know, Joanna, so many of us, we go through our lives bracing, holding tension in our jaw, in our chest, in our shoulders, and trying to stay very composed and productive and likable and approachable and all the things that we think that we need to portray outwardly to the world. But, you know, your body was never designed to just hold stress that way, specifically for long periods of time. Today, we're going to interrupt that pattern. Okay. So this is a very fun one. And if you're watching along, I encourage everyone to try it with us, and you can do it every day. It's really good for you. Step one is called the shakeout. Okay. So I want you to start by just shaking out your hands.
I love it already.
Shake it. It's fun. It's fun. Shake, 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 Sonora. Now shake your wrists, like you twirl, like you twirl your hands in a row. Can you see me? Am I in camera?
Yeah.
We're just shaking, we're twirling, we're shaking, we're twirling. Now your shoulders.
When I was a baby, I had a habit of shaking my wrists.
Yeah. Maybe you were a somatic genius way before you even knew it.
Totally. Or like a really young Tai Chi fan.
Well, that's why we are where we are now, being extraordinarily talented somatic practitioners. Okay, Now we've moved down from our shoulders. Let's let your body start to move imperfectly. Just kind of bounce around. That's all it is. We're being a little silly here. Let you move, your head move, your neck move.
I love
Forgive my
it.
shaky voice. Bounce in your seat. Imagine the stress just physically leaving your body, okay? Breathe in, breathe out. Come back to center. Slow down for a second. Okay, you may feel a little tingly and vibraty right now. Vibraty is a word I just made up. You're welcome. Now I want you to just focus on your face. This is a jaw and face release, okay? So I want you to open and close your jaw gently. So start by opening, like you're saying ah at the dentist. And then slowly close it. Now scrunch it up. Release it. Now open your jaw again, widely. And slowly close. Taking a deep breath and exhale audibly. Okay, last step of our somatic release tonight. It's a vocal vibration release. We're going to make one of my favorite sounds called the VU sound. It's something that the vagus nerve, responsible for much of your autonomic nervous system regulation, responds to this vibration profoundly. Okay, so you're just going to do some low hums to start. and inhale, and then sigh. Now we're going to take it a deep inhale. So we just warmed up our throat. Now we're going to take it a deep inhale, and we're going to make a sound like almost sounds like a distant choo-choo train. And the sound is like this. Voo. You could do it lower. Voo. Whatever sounds more comfortable for you. So you're going to take in a deep inhale, and you're going to release with that voo sound and let it go until you run out of breath. Ready? Inhale. Exhale. Voo. Place one hand on your chest for the next one, and one hand on your belly. Inhale again. Exhale. Voo. Let sound vibrate through your chest. Now just pause and notice if anything has shifted. Has anything softened? How do you feel right now?
I feel like happy jello.
I
Like
love
my
happy
body
jello.
is loose. I feel like I sounded like a train. I feel calm and ready to talk to your sister about so many things. I have so many questions.
Well, I think we're going to invite her in right now.
I think it's time.
Yeah, I
I
think we're
love
going to
when
invite
we
her in
do
now.
those things, though, even just a couple minutes at the beginning of these episodes when we help each other regulate, it helps me really get focused and locked in, just get in state for the conversations that we're about to have.
Well, I like to do this even before a meeting. I'll do it before anything that's sort of like a big event. So we have this as this is our big event for right now. Everything that we do is a big event. Hello. Because this is public facing, I get a little stage frighty with these kind of things. I know you're much more comfortable as a keynote speaker. I'm still like easing into that realm. So for me, any kind of a somatic practice that brings me down to neutral is really essential. It makes me feel more grounded and ready to sort of shine as much as I can shine.
I
Marissa's
feel like you
late.
still look tropical.
I look tropical.
Yeah.
Well, that's because I put my hair back because when we were just in Costa Rica for our retreat, um, the humidity made me have to reimagine hairstyles that I don't usually rock. And so this was one of them. Although the ponytail in Costa Rica was not quite this straight. It was kind of like
Love. In
feral
fact, we
crazy
had
lady.
sounds. We gave our hair sounds. Can you tell everyone and show them what your hair does in Costa Rica, the sound?
Well, my hair, no, your hair goes, what does your hair do?
Mine went, phew.
And my hair goes, it's very similar to Marissa. You're here.
Hey, sorry.
Hooray. Marissa, you have just joined. We're so excited.
I'm so excited to be here.
Welcome
Thank
to
you for inviting
Regulate
me.
to Elevate. It's our pleasure. To our audience, Marissa, my sister, is one of the strongest women I know. Though I don't think she always realizes it in herself, but she is resilient on so many levels. This is a woman who has built a career that most people could only dream about. She was a head buyer at David's Bridal, and then eventually the COO of Kleinfeld Bridal, which is one of the premier bridal salons in New York City, and also the host of Say Yes to the Dress on TLC. And then she's just recently taken on a crazy new endeavor on reality TV on the TLC show 90 Day Fiancé, which I hope you all watch. She's a mother of two. She's a bar instructor. She's divorced and then now in a new relationship, which we will learn about on the show. No dropping hints on that. She'll tell us what she can tell us.
No spoiler alerts.
No spoiler alerts. But I'm so excited to have you here, Marissa, because we want to learn all about your story. I already know it, but I want the whole world to hear about your journey and how you got to be in this place in your life right now, which is just so amazing to watch. So amazing that they actually are making a TV show about you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jen, for that beautiful intro. I am really excited that you guys invited me to be on the podcast today. And you're 100% right. This has been such a journey for me. And you, as my sister, know from the very beginning that it's been a rocky road for a very long time for me. But if you want to start from, just growing up, born and raised in the Bronx, broken household. Our parents got divorced when I think I was about 6 years old. Grew up with a really strong, solid single mother. We lived with our grandparents, and my grandparents influenced us in many ways, but I learned a lot from living with an independent mother and all that she did for us. And not to mention my strong, independent sister who would kick the shit out of anybody. Kick the shit out of anybody that would mess with me when we were growing up. So thanks, Jen,
Pleasure.
for always
May I
having my.
say, as a PSA to our listeners, if you are listening right now instead of watching, you need to go on for two reasons. Jen just flexed, and you need to see that not only do we have our normal brunette Jen, we have the blonde version with Marissa here today,
Also flexing.
Jackness, flexing. And one day we are going to have their mom on as well. So you could see who I call, in the most loving way, an ageless robot. Because before AI was a thing, I kind of accused your mom of being AI because I've known you guys for 30 years. None of you age and you all just start morphing into the same human. Continue.
Thank you. Thank you
Well,
for
thank you,
that
Joanna.
sidebar.
Appreciate that. Yeah, so listen, our childhood was a pleasant childhood, nothing that was like, tons of hardship or anything like that. But, growing up in the Bronx, you didn't live in the lap of luxury, and, you developed your own backbone there.
Yeah, it was a
Um,
tough. It was not. It was tough. It's okay to say it. It was a bit of a tough neighborhood back
Yeah, I mean,
then.
it's a tough neighborhood. I mean, you have a lot of like, especially like in high school, like, we went to a very diverse high school, lots of different ethnicities and personalities and cultures there. I think that actually made us stronger as humans because we were exposed to a lot of different things growing up and not just, in like a suburban white neighborhood. I mean, we had lots of different types of friends, and I think that that helped us become more well-rounded as we grew up. Not to say the least, it was not an easy it was not an easy situation growing up. um but I think that that helped in forming strong women and strong individuals. So I also went to college at Fordham University, also in the Bronx, but I did live there, so I did get the living on campus experience. And then when I was in college, my mom got remarried to our stepfather Bob and moved out to Pennsylvania. And so I graduated. Jen had already moved to Brooklyn at this point, and I was like, oh shit, I don't have a place to live. So I kind of said, all right, well, I guess I have to relocate to Pennsylvania because to me, where my mom was, no matter where it was in the world, always felt like home to me. So I decided to move to Pennsylvania and start my life there. I was really blessed to have a great opportunity and get a foot in the door at David's Bridal because my stepfather was the CEO there at the time. I started off as an assistant buyer, and my mentor at the time, I still hold her near and dear to my heart. Her name was Liz. She reminds me of the days when I would be sitting in meetings, and she said, "Marissa, you look like a deer in headlights. You had no idea what was going on. You were like, where am I? What am I doing?" And it's funny because I started there with absolutely no experience, just a foot in the door and like learning as I went, and developed my career at David's Bridal. And, even though I left David's Bridal, I am so grateful for everything that I learned there. I learned how to manage people. I learned how to work in a corporate environment. I learned how to face adversity, how to deal with conflict and deal with criticism and constructive feedback. And it was not easy being the stepdaughter of the CEO because there were many eyes on me, expecting more, expecting like, to be the best at what I was doing. And also coming home at night and having my stepfather, kind of come down hard on me on like, if the business wasn't doing amazing or, so that also aided in me developing a thicker skin and just being able to deal with high powered men in an industry that wasn't always led by women. I mean, it's evolved over the years, but like now there's a lot more leaders or women leaders in retail, but back then it wasn't the case. So we had to kind of like,
People even wanted to see you fail. There were periods of time I remember where like because of the fact that there was a familial connection to David's brother,
Yeah,
people thought that she was just given this job, and
100%.
she had to earn her keep. It wasn't given to her easily. In fact, she had to work twice as hard to prove herself, from what I remember,
Yeah.
just because of that, because my stepfather was very clear that nepotism was not something that we wanted people to feel was the reason for her that job. It wasn't about that. She was given a very low level job, and she had to rise in the ranks on her own.
And it
Yeah, that's
sounds like
exactly right.
your mentor was a female and it wasn't Bob. And good for you for recognizing the value of mentorship. How many people are lucky enough to be presented with one and then smart enough to make the most of it?
Yeah, 100%. And Jen, you're exactly right too. You're exactly right in the fact that like there were many of my peers that were very jealous of me. They thought that I had special treatment. They probably got thought that I got paid more, which was not the case. I mean, I started there at like $32,000. Like it was like the bottom of the barrel, you know, like it was very, very low on the scale of income. And when you say I had to work even harder to prove myself, I did. I had to be the person working late. I had to be the person putting the extra effort in. I had to be the person that didn't rely on like my daddy. So, but you know what? That experience, I think, really helped me. It helped me learn how to prove myself and how to stand up against, you know, the naysayers or the people that were jealous or, you know, feeling like I was undeserving, because those types of people come along in your life every day. There's always going to be somebody that wants what you have, or like doesn't believe that you deserve what you have, or feels like you're not smart enough or strong enough. And like you have to be able to like stand up to those people and not let their negativity kind of hold you back. You have to kind of overcome what they're putting into your life or what they're throwing at you. So my career in David's really flourished. Like I said, Jen had mentioned that I was a senior buyer there. I worked my way up. You know, I went step by step, developed into an associate buyer, then a regular buyer, then a senior buyer. And then
Don't
along the
forget,
way,
are we at the point yet? Are you married yet in this story, or are you not married yet?
so when I started at David's Bridal, I was not married. I met my ex-husband when I was 29 years old, so just shy of 30. I was working at David's. And, you know, it's funny, like David's watched me grow up. I went in from like this kid out of college to, you know, finding my way in a girl in my 20s, going out, partying, things like that, coming into work like hungover. And then I meet you know, my husband. They watched me get married. They watched me have my first kid, then my second kid. They watched me buy my first home, my second home. You know, like there was a lot of growing up that I did in that organization. And the whole time I took my career so seriously because I felt that it was such a connection to who I am. It really like that, you know, some people identify most with being like, um, you know, a housewife or, you know, they or doing something else in life, a mom. I mean, I identify with a mom, but like in that point before I had kids, like being a strong career woman was, you know, paramount to me. So I worked my up away. Eventually, I became the divisional merchandise manager, which was equivalent to like a VP level of the dress division. The dress division was the biggest division in the company, so I oversaw bridesmaids, mother of the bride, prom, special occasion dresses. I had worked in the bridal division earlier. I was a senior buyer, so I traveled overseas a lot. But then, like my final role at David's was the VP, divisional merchandise manager of dress division,
But
and
Marissa, if that is like the pinnacle of where you rose in your career at David's, since you grew up there, by the time you reached that level, what was your nervous system like then? You probably didn't even have the vocabulary to call it that then, but looking back, were you running on fumes and late night because you were young and you can handle it even if exhausted? Or did you have enough time that you remembered to take care of yourself? What were you doing in terms of emotional and physical wellness, self care then?
yeah, that's a great question. No wellness, no self-care. I was working very late. I was up early. I wasn't taking care of my body the way that I should, kind of eating whatever I was, you know, had a quick access to. Um,
You're
I
traveling a lot
also was
too.
really, I traveled a lot. I was like off schedule with things. Before I was a mom, I just devoted every waking minute into work and like just proving myself as, you know, a businesswoman. After I had kids, it's really hard to balance being a mom, being a career woman, and taking care of yourself. So of course, what happens is you let yourself go to the back burner, you know, and then it becomes this like tug of war between how do I be a good mom? How do I be a good leader in my organization? And it was hard. I was constantly stressed. I was overweight. I was bloated. My hair was a mess. Like, and I'm not just saying like, oh, I didn't take care of my hair. It was falling out. It was broken. It was a disaster. And I didn't understand the value of self-regulation. I mean, that's a newer concept to me, thanks to my sister, who's taught me so much in the past couple of years, and you, Joanna. You know, I've done Your Best Life Ever, so that was, we'll talk about that later. But, you know, I just kind of thought that this is how you do it. This is the only way to be successful is to like bust your ass, give every waking moment to your career, and like anything that's left unreserved, maybe you give to your kids, nothing to your husband, because I just didn't have anything left in my body to give to somebody else. So even though like, well, we don't have to talk about my traumatizing marriage, I
We
do
don't have to
think,
talk about it, but the fact that there was a traumatizing component in your life that was that marriage that didn't end well,
yeah,
that was a big part of your journey. And so we don't need to get into the details of that, but it is sort of important that you make mention of it.
yeah. And we can. It's just there's so many different life events because like it's been just such a journey for me. David's bridal was a big chunk of it, and yeah, like we spoke about the exhaustion and the challenging positions that I was put in to deal with managing and juggling like a whole bunch of things in my life at one time.
You
You
guys
know, it's
also
also,
are the third generation of this industrious, hardworking, no excuses kind of woman. You
yeah.
saw your grandmother, who is a seamstress. You had your mom, who worked her way up the corporate ladder. So it was not only just like taught, it was caught. You guys were around this in your whole childhood. For you both to embody this work, work, work persona is not really that much of a plot twist when you look at it through this lens of hindsight.
And
You
that's,
know, I
yeah,
never thought
Joanna,
of that.
that's exactly what I was going to touch on. It's like we had, as children, Jen and I had this role model of a mother. You know, you mentioned how good she looks now. She looked great her entire life. So we lived
Always.
up to this expectation that you never leave the house without makeup. You always look presentable. You always have to look thin. You always have to be, you know, your best self around everybody. And my grandmother was the same way. I mean, my grandmother looked great until the day that she died, but she was always, you know, very weight conscious. And she would always like, I remember being a child and her saying things like, don't drink too much orange juice. There's a lot of calories in that, you know? And I remember, or like she would hide candy from me. Like I remember the hiding place because like I like sweets as a kid. And I remember her hiding candy in like little cabinets, like in the way back, and me like searching through the cabinets to find it. But then I
She
didn't
would have
realize,
all of that stuff. And like, we knew it was there, but like, we weren't allowed to, it was nuts.
yeah. And I remember like, well, why is she restricting it from me? Like, and then I started to realize like, oh, she doesn't want me to eat too much. She doesn't want me to have too much sugar. She doesn't want me to gain weight. And so and that was enforced from a very young age. And I believe that it contributed to a lot of my insanity. I mean, Jen can attest to this, is that like I was hyper focused on being skinny and losing weight and like so self-conscious. My self-esteem was like in the toilet. I mean, and that's what I also like when touch on a traumatizing marriage. I accepted I had such low standards because I believed that nobody would love me. Nobody would ever love like I mean, I don't think I was ever like a fat kid, you know, but like I was like chunky at some points in my life, and I believed that nobody would love me unless I was like stick skinny and beautiful and like always had makeup on and my hair was perfect. And it was hard. It was damaging to who I was as a person, and I suffered through that for a big portion of my life
There
up
was also a
until
component that I just want to say, like, before you like go into the next part. we also, our parents were divorced when Marissa was quite young. I was about 10 or 11 and Marissa was about 6,
Hmm.
not 7 yet. And
Well, you're giving us too much of an age gap. You were a little younger. I think you were, I was 6.
well,
We're
we're
only
we're
three and a
three
half
we're
years
three
apart.
and a half years apart.
Yeah. So
So
you were
she
almost
was like,
10. You were like
I was
10-ish.
I was 10ish. I don't know the exact range. Like, we were in that range when they separated and they got divorced. But like the thing is, because when you were so young, I had a stronger and longer relationship with our dad living at home. And
Hmm.
then you didn't get that much of a chance. And then he left and he had his own issues, which we talked about at other, and we will talk about another podcast, but he had his own issues. And so you really grew up quite profoundly without a father. I mean, he was only there sort of dipping in and out because of some of the issues that he was struggling with. So that was another part of the self-worth thing, because there was just no father figure. We had our grandfather, who also died when you were quite young. He was the only man that was really in our lives that was a positive influence at that time, and he died. So this is all you really knew.
Yeah. And I never felt that, like, I remember going one year to like a father-daughter dance. Daddy came with me. But I remember like seeing the other daughters have such a close relationship with their dad when they would dance, and you could see it in their eyes. It was like they were daddy's little girl. And I never felt that way. I
Yeah, me
never
too.
felt like I had a man to truly protect me ever. I never felt like I had this like father that I could count on and like, would adore me and put me on a pedestal. And so when I was in the time of my life when I was seeking a relationship, like I was looking for someone like that, this protective figure, but I was looking for it in the wrong way. And I was recognizing bad attributes of people that I mistakenly thought were like what I was seeking, like it
The
was,
love bombing, people that would put you on a
yeah.
pedestal only to trick you into thinking that, you couldn't live without them. That was a lot of really what it was.
Or
I
when
saw a
like
lot of that.
control looks like love or protection, things get blurry when you're trying to heal with a new person, a scab from someone earlier in
Mm,
your life. They get
Yeah.
mm.
blurry.
Yeah. Yeah. And I never really felt like I had a relationship in my life that made me feel safe. I mean, there was always just drama. There was always fighting. There was always ups and downs. And I can never truly be my authentic self around my partners because I was always trying to prove something. I was always trying to look my best for them. I was always trying to prove that I was worthy of their love. And it was a very horrible dynamic in a lot of my relationships, and especially in my marriage. Like that was kind of like the thing that I think scarred me the most in my life, and I still have many, many, many deep wounds from that marriage that I don't know if I'll ever fully come out of. But through a lot of work recently, and the work that Jen helps me get through, and your influence, Joanna, too, like these things are helping me realize that like that isn't part of my life anymore. Like I have a new perspective on things. But it's hard. It's a process. It's a hard process.
Bring
There's
us back
something
to.
that happens when you have the ability to separate the events in your life from your identity. And you
Mhm.
have done the work on that, Marissa, and it shows. And it doesn't surprise me that now at this stage you're able to give and receive a different kind of love that has that safety, that has those components. Because until we start to really love ourselves and care for ourselves, not only does it inhibit our ability to give that love outwards, but to receive it as true. So when you can say, this thing happened in my life, this event really shaped me, but it doesn't have to be my identity if I don't choose it as such, there's huge power in that. And you should be so proud of yourself because we got the honor of seeing you do that work in real time and see the
Mhm.
before, middle, and after.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, so
Bring
go ahead,
us, yeah,
Jen.
back to where we were. So now, so you're in this now. You've gotten into this marriage, and you're still a David's bridal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, and aside from the troubles that I had at home and managing, two little boys, not easy. I mean, I love my kids, they're amazing, but they're a
They're a
handful,
handful. They're a
little
handful.
boys. And Jen, you can remember this from when they were little kids. Like they drove me insane. They were very, very difficult to manage. Now they're finally like lovely kids, and I really enjoy being around them. But they were not easy when they were babies. Um, I also was dealing with this like power struggle. Like my stepfather left the company probably before I was at the last position that I was in at the company. I think I was a bridal buyer when he left, and um, I had to stand on my own. Not that I ever leaned on him for support or protection, but your stepfather is the CEO of the company. You don't feel like you're going to get fired, right? So now he leaves, and now this new level of pressure comes in, like of me feeling like, oh God, I really, really have to step up my game now because I don't have any protective measures around me. And new management came in, several different executive teams came in. Like it was like a rotation of like who's the new CEO and who do I have to prove myself to. And then I started getting these women leaders that were just horrible. They were just so power hungry, and like they love to push people down instead of try to elevate. So I was dealing with that, and it became towards the end of my time at David's Bridal, it just became so toxic, and it became so draining for me that I just was like, I don't even like, I'm so unhappy. I can't give any passion to my job anymore because I just felt so unsupported in my job. And like, even though I was so successful there and I made the company so much money, and my division was like the most successful in the company, like I still didn't get the respect that I deserved. So I pivoted. And in this time, it was right in 2020. I remember it was the summer of 2020. We were kind of like right in the midst of COVID. And I was like, I think that it's time for me to leave David's. And another person that I was working with had said, I think that if you tell them that you're leaving, and that you're leaving because you feel like some of the things that they're doing are unethical or not like aligned with your morals, like you could probably ask for, some payout. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to try. So I went into the HR person and I was like, I want this. And they left me like, well, if you're quitting, you don't get a severance. And I was like, well, let me try to talk to the CEO. And I kind of finagled my way into getting 4 months. So that gave me the opportunity to leave the company and figure out what was next. In that time, I decided that I was a bar instructor. I'm still a bar instructor, but I
Bar,
was,
just for people that don't know what that is, it's not a bar like drinking bar. The bar is
no,
like,
it's a bar
go
is
ahead.
a fitness, a fitness style, similar to Pilates, similar to yoga. It incorporates mindfulness, strength conditioning, cardio, really targets like women's muscle groups that like we really like to focus on. And it's all to the beat of, it's all to
Fun,
like a
fun
beat up
music.
to the music, to the fun music. Yeah. But everything's on the beat. So it feels like you're kind of like in a dance class, but it's not dancing. It's
And
really
they're
fun.
tiny muscle groups. So, like, you won't even know you have a muscle there until you're sore.
Yeah.
Yes. Lots of glutes, lots of abs, lots of quads, calves, all of that we as women, we really like to develop these specific things. But what I love about bar is not so much that like, it's about like building, this like powerhouse body and being like lean and gorgeous and whatever. It's not about that. It's about the community that we build at the studio and empowering women to be their best selves. I love seeing a new person come into the studio and just look at them like and say like, I don't know if I could do this. Like I'm really intimidated. And then like they walk out feeling successful and accomplished just because they like were able to complete a class. And that brings me the most joy. And like just joining these women on their journey to, being their best selves is so fulfilling to me. But anyways, we'll get to that later. But while I was in this like this crossroad in my life, I thought I wanted to buy the bar studio, and I did. So I had a rental property that I was renting out. So I decided to sell that property to get money to buy the bar studio. But what happened was it was in COVID, and the studio, all fitness studios were kind of in the toilet because nobody was able to come into the studio. So we were doing Zoom classes, and like the profitability wasn't there, the revenue wasn't there. So when I went to go get a small business loan, they said no, like your valuation of what they want to sell for versus what it's actually doing is not there. So I had to abandon that idea. And by some force of nature, I get a call from somebody that I used to work with and said, hey, I'm doing some work at Kleinfeld Bridal. I'm consulting there. And they're currently looking for a chief merchandising officer. And they said, would you be interested in interviewing? And I was like, nah.
New York City.
Yeah, I don't want to work in New York City. It's too much of a commute for me. I don't want
Where
to do it.
she's from.
But
And at this point,
but I
are
was
you
living
still
in Pennsylvania.
married?
I was
Yeah, she's
not married at this
no,
point.
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. You forgot. We
forgot
skipped the whole divorce.
Yeah, I
Did
know.
you get
Backtrack.
divorced before leaving David's or in that 4 months?
I got divorced while I was still at David's Bridal. So I got divorced 2019. It was New Year's Eve from 2018 into 2019 was the last night that my husband and I were ever together because there was a big
There was an incident.
Alcohol was involved, not on my part, but alcohol was involved. Things got really ugly, a little aggressive and somewhat violent, but not in the way that you're thinking. I wasn't like punched out or anything like that, but things got uncomfortably,
Aggressive.
yes.
It was a final straw moment.
Yeah.
It was because the marriage was suffering. There was just no love left in our relationship. And it was the final straw that said, like, I can't, there was no cheating involved or anything like that. So I was like, I don't know how to leave this marriage. I'm so unhappy, but I have these little boys, and how do I get out of this? So this incident was such a blessing to me because although it was the hardest night of my life, and I think it still continues to be one of the hardest things that I ever experienced, it was the best thing that it could have possibly happened to me because it gave me the opportunity to say, no more, I'm leaving, I'm out. So I decided to leave my husband that very night. It was New Year's Eve going into 2019. And in 2019, I was still working at David's Bridal. That's when I got my bar instructor certification. That's when my life started to shift. I started to take a much more stronger interest in wellness and like helping my body. Jen, during this whole thing, I remember she and your husband, Mike, were like, you need to meditate. I never meditated a day in my life. I didn't even know how to meditate. And I was like, that's bullshit. I don't want to meditate. And she was like, you need to meditate. And so I remember going through the divorce, and I remember laying here. I'm on my bed right now. I remember laying here. I got an app, a meditation app, and I was just like, let me just give it a try. I did like the 7-week trial or something like that. And I can't tell you how much that grounded me and helped me reconnect with myself. So that in combination with doing something great for my body, moving my body again, connecting with community, decompressing through exercise and movement, I feel like that was the critical part or the critical change in my life that helped me.
You're glossing over one of the biggest things you already said, though. You had the balls to actually change your life, to walk away from a marriage that you knew. And this is where I want to pause for a second, because you could be that beacon for someone else. If somebody knows their marriage is over and they're waiting for that huge New Year's Eve incident to tell them it's okay, what would you say to that woman who knows but thinks she needs a bigger reason than just her own life and happiness to make that drastic move?
I would say you don't need a bigger reason because there's a bigger reason that already exists, and that's your unhappiness. Your unhappiness should be driving your decision to make a change.
Thank you.
And yeah. And I wish I would have realized that sooner. I remember nights taking a shower and like curling up in a little ball, laying on my shower floor, crying in misery, thinking, I can't go on in my life like this, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to change it.
Can I just say
It did take an
something?
incident for me, but I want, if this does help at least one person that's in a struggling marriage understand that there's such amazing things past a horrible relationship and how my life after divorce blossomed into such, no, it's like I found myself, I found myself as an individual versus like connected to something that was making me so unhappy.
Part of your
Um,
story, Marissa, is like I'm listening to it, although I lived it with you, but as I'm listening to it, the retrospective of the story is so interesting because there were moments where you're describing now you were curled up in a ball, or you were, like quietly traumatized in different parts of your story that either you didn't share because of either shame or fear of judgment, right? And things that you struggled with quietly because I think maybe there was worry that, people like myself included, I will be the first to say, like, I was trying to dissuade her from the marriage in the first place. And so I think that, having to say, like, this isn't right for me anymore after having fought for it so strongly and so profoundly, as no, this is right for me at the time when she was actually entering the marriage. It's hard to admit to the people in your life that have been trying to coach you, when, like, not that they were right, but that, now it's
you made a bad
clear,
decision, yeah.
now it's clear to me too, I made the wrong decision. You know what, though? It isn't a bad decision, only because you have these beautiful sons that came of it, and that never would have happened without the marriage. So there's always a silver lining, to everything. And I believe that you needed these things to happen on your journey in order for you to get to who you are now. All of the stumblings, the shortcomings, the pitfalls, the things that we experience, the challenges, those are all just steps towards, becoming. And those were your steps. You needed those to happen. I mean, they may have been awful, but then you needed them to happen.
I
And if
agree.
all of those things didn't happen and the different chapters of your life, we wouldn't be in this chapter, which is a really entertaining one, especially for your sister and me as we traveled the world and we're watching you and you came with us.
Yeah.
We
Thank you.
teased this in the beginning of the opener because you did, you went through so much and you did most of it very privately. And
Hmm.
now, in this moment in time, you're going through a whole different kind of chapter and you're doing it very publicly. Can you
Yeah.
tell everyone what you're doing and how it came about and how it feels now that it's here?
Yeah, well, I mean, we did skip over the whole like me going to Kleinfeld's, right? So we'll do that really quickly. Is that it? I got this call. I decided to like take the interview, got the job at Kleinfeld, was there for 5 years and still dealt with lots of adversity. There's lots of toxicity in that company. I love the people I worked with. The leaders were difficult to manage. And then we'll just fast forward till the end when it was like, I can't exactly say why, all the specific reasons why I'm not at Kleinfeld anymore. However, I knew that being in two places all the time, New York, Pennsylvania, having two sets of everything, being away from my kids in very important moments of their lives, missing games, missing school events, seeing their, just them growing up, like, and seeing them every day like a mom should. It reinforced the idea that I just had to come back and just reestablish my roots in Pennsylvania. So now we could be at the point where life has just taken a completely different turn. So I'm on the show 90 Day Fiancé. I can share with you how this came about, which is a few years ago, I went to Punta Cana on a girls' trip. I went to a karaoke bar. There was a man working there. He was part of the hotel staff. We made some kind of connection. It was an interesting connection because for many, many years, I felt so unseen as a woman. In my marriage, I was just like, we were ships passing in the night, like there was no intimacy, there was no friendship anymore, there was no romanticism, nothing. And I know that this sounds like cliche, like, oh, like this like older woman like goes into a hotel and like somebody flirts with her and she falls for him. That wasn't necessarily the case. However, I did feel like I was a woman again. I did feel like I was seen and I was like attractive and I felt beautiful again. And when somebody reignites that feeling, whether it's real or bullshit, you don't forget them. So I met Edward many years ago at that night, right? And we had a connection. Nothing happened. People think I had a one night stand with him. I didn't. I didn't even kiss him the first time I met him. Years later, 3 years later, I go back to maybe it was 2 years later, but I go back to Punta Cana on a girls trip, texted him and said, "Hey, I'm in Punta Cana," and we ended up having our first date, our first kiss ever. It was magical. We instantly were like attached, never separated from that very first date. It was like instant kind of connection and jumped into a relationship and we fell in love. We fell deeply in love. And I had this long distance relationship with Edward for a couple of years, for 2 years. I was traveling to Punta Cana back and forth, and it's like hard, you know. I'm still working at Kleinfeld at this point. I'm still trying to be a mom. I'm trying to deal with going back and forth to New York and Pennsylvania. I am dealing with very difficult bosses. I am dealing with a difficult environment, like leading a staff of like 250 people. And now you want to talk about dysregulation, talk about misery, talking about Jen. I mean, do you remember like me just like crying to you, like talking about like how I was fucking miserable? Am I allowed to curse on this? I don't know, but I was
Yes, you can.
fucking
Curses are welcome.
miserable. I remember not having a social life, not having a love life, not feeling like I was appreciated. I felt like I was absent from my kids half the time. I felt like I was dealing with my ex-husband who was a nightmare and continues to be. And I know that, and Jen would constantly be like, you need to like, let me help you. You need to let me help you. And I resisted for a long time thinking like, I remember you even saying like, I needed therapy. And I'd be like, I'm fine. I don't have time for therapy. Like, I'm fine. I can figure this out on my own.
We try. Well, you know,
So
it's hard to learn from family too. Like we did a coaching session. I was like, let me just do a coaching session with you. So we did a
yeah.
coaching session and we figured out what was wrong. Like
Yeah.
identifying
The
it was
coaching
part of it
session was, I think, yeah, one of the biggest things that I feel like started to like make the shift in my life
because it
where,
makes it all clear.
yeah, and we started to identify, like, you helped me realize like where I am in life and like what, you know, we explored some goals and I like didn't even, I was like lost. I mean, I remember that coaching session so clearly. I was so lost. I didn't even know how to, you know, begin to tell
Vocalize.
you how I was feeling. By the end, I felt great. It was a great coaching session, which then led me to the opportunity to do the workshop with you guys. So I did Best Life Ever. And that started the path of rebuilding who I am as a person and rebuilding my perspective on life. Because there's one part of Best Life Ever that I wrote in a letter to my ex-husband because it was,
The trauma letter.
yeah. And it was so painful for me. And I remember like just sobbing writing that letter, but like it felt so good to get it out on paper. And it's almost like I released something that I had locked deep down inside of me. And I never knew that just writing a letter and reading it out loud can be so healing for me in many
You were
ways.
one of my favorites, Marissa, because to let everyone know, obviously, if you haven't grasped by now, the thing these two Rubinetti beauties have in common, besides looking like their
You.
ageless robot mom, is they don't mess around. You know how they feel instantly. They're direct. They say it like it is, and they say it like they're feeling. So week one of our best life ever, Marissa's like, you know, to be clear, Jen told me I should be doing this. I feel like I should be doing this. I'm not usually like into these things. I don't really have the time. I definitely don't have the capacity. But okay. So you felt her open mind.
Right
You
away.
really felt her open mind.
Mind you, it was like our fourth time inviting her into the course, and she finally
Yeah.
took it on like number four. I was
It's like,
like,
no,
oh, she
I
said
don't
yes
want to do
this
that.
time.
And we're like, that's okay. Shoemaker's kid with no shoes. I have a husband who's tight and groaning in the next room as if there wasn't an ancient practice of stretches and breath work that could help him with such things. So I totally got it. And I had my own sister-in-law either in that round or the one right after. And she just came the night before, like, fine, I really want this house. So I think I'm just going to do the course. So it's so interesting because sometimes people come for just a general desire to, maybe it's time for something else, different, more, bigger, whatever it is. And other times it's very specific. I'm coming for this reason. And sometimes it's because their family member has told them to do it and they come kicking and screaming. But what I love was Jen and I were like secretly, not secretly, hoping that by the end of this 12-week experience, Marissa would have gotten one takeaway. Well, cut to week 2 when she's like, "Can I say something before we begin?" And we're like, "Yes, please." And she was like, "Oh my God. I got to tell you guys, honestly, I did not think this was going to work like at all last week." And we're like, "Oh, no, you don't say." And by week 2, she could have been the only commercial we ever had
She
for
was like a
all of
star
the work.
student. Star
I was the
student. We
star
were like
pupil.
gold star. She was
Seriously.
the joinerest joiner of all the joiners.
She's like, transformation complete. We're like, dude, it's week 2. We're just starting. She was, and it's such a testament to you. What we thought was your open, closed mind in week 1. All it took was for you to see a little bit of result and you had all the buy-in. So I can only imagine how this applies to every other aspect in your life. Once you started to look for the love, you found it. Once you started to look for the satisfaction in bar and seeing other people's transformations, you found it. So it's like none of this is a surprise to see that you keep manifesting bigger and better versions of this. Okay,
Yeah.
now back to your star studentness.
Well, I mean, that whole program just like opened my eyes to what can be possible, and just a shift in your perspective can make a big impact in the way that your life plays out, you know? Even just, I remember like there was a moment that like Edward and I were really dealing with like the K-1 visa, and it was so hard and it was such a process. And like, I remember just writing the letter of like what it's going to look like next month, and just kind of like imagining that like the process went smoothly. And little did I know throughout the process, like we had it pretty easy, like as compared to some other couples that were going through the same thing. And like it all just came together because I almost had like this North Star that I was like marching towards, because I knew that that's what I wanted in my life. That's where I was going towards, and I wasn't going to let anything stop me. But the story doesn't end there. Like there was still a lots of ups and downs. I was still at Kleinfeld. I was still unhappy. I started to make some proper changes in my life, rituals, breathing, taking more time to dedicate to myself. And, you know, and I would fall off. I think like any normal person, like going through something, falls off and you forget about the things that you learn, and then you have your sister like getting back on you and saying, but get back on, you know. But this is like, you know, remind yourself of these things. And um
And you had
I'm at a
friends, you
position.
had your female friends who like Sheila and like some of the girls that I've met along the way in your journey. You had this community of women that always would sort of be there for you to fall back on, and you had mom, and you know, that was also part of it. Just knowing that there was a safety net around you, that even in the worst moments, even when you were being a total bitch, which you were sometimes, because she
Yeah.
would just push and pull and push and pull, and she'd want us there. And then she'd be like, no, I don't want to hear your advice. And there was a lot of that. But it was just knowing that there were these women, I think, in my opinion, just watching it from the perspective and being part of that net, that like, if you really needed any of us, none of us were going to turn our backs on you. And you built this community around you because you also were a giver to every one of us when we needed it. So when you were in your dark moments, we were all happy to sort of be able to do that for you too. I think that was a big part
Yeah.
of it.
Your village.
And yes, and thank God that I had that support system, because I resisted it a lot too. Jen, you would always like call me and check on me and like say like, you know, let's talk about this. And I remember resisting. And then I remember not resisting one day and having this long conversation with you and being like, why do I resist the help of the amazing women in my life, the amazing family members that I have? You know, why do I resist this so much? And just leaning in to like the support system is, if anybody's listening to this and like taking one piece of advice, use your community. Use the relationships that you have in your life, because if you act like an idiot like I did for a very long time and think you could do it by yourself, you're wrong. You know, we have relationships as human beings for a reason. And if you don't utilize them, then what's the point? What's the point of having people in your life that care about you, right? So, I don't know where to go from here because at this point, I mean, I have something very exciting to share.
Have you left Kleinfeld at this point? You left Kleinfeld. I mean, just to catch us all up, because we don't have that much more time, and I really want to get to the meat of your journey. You've left Kleinfeld. You decided that Kleinfeld wasn't for you. You're pivoting. You were moving back to Pennsylvania. You were going to reestablish yourself there and do something completely different, which is something that's in the works right now. And I don't want to share it if you're not ready to share it. But
I'm ready to share because it's important, but yeah.
Go ahead, share. We're ready for it.
So I left Kleinfeld and I took this course. It was, how to start your own consulting business. I knew I didn't want to work for anybody anymore. I knew that I made so much money for all these companies that I worked for, and I don't want to do that. I want to start making money for myself. So I decided to start a consulting business, which I launched. It's called the Ruby Standard. I have a website, and the premise of the consulting business was to help high touch, luxury, retail businesses transform their culture so that they could start seeing sustained growth. And a lot of times people don't realize that the culture of their company is really their biggest constraint. And once you make a shift in the way that you're operating culturally, can be, the biggest catalyst to increase revenue. So I did this, right? So I was really proud of launching my own business. I did it all on my own. I built my own website. I got my own LLC. And now I'm trying to find clients, and I realize that it's very difficult. Now, in the back of my head, while I have the skill set to do this, something in my heart was saying, like, you could do this, Marissa. Like, it's not hard, but like when you don't have love and passion for it, there's something that holds you back from launching, from going 100% in. And something was holding me back, and I couldn't explain what it was, because maybe it was like imposter syndrome. Maybe it was like, this isn't my true love. Maybe it was like, I still feel a calling for something else. The calling has always been what I explained earlier, was a career in fitness. I'm not about bodybuilding and stuff like that. I love working out for myself, but my true love of fitness is teaching and bringing women together to help them find their best selves, whether it's in mind, in body, in spirit, in whatever. And that's what instructing does for me, because when I lead a class and clients come up to me at the end of class and say, I really needed that, or that was a great class, or, hey, I went skiing last weekend and I realized that all the work I've been doing, like, helped me be, not have knee problems when I'm skiing. Like, all these little things brought me so much joy. I could be in the worst mood, teach a class, and then be elated for the rest of the day. And that is my passion. That is what I feel I'm drawn to. It's like my vocation. But what was I going to do? So I took a shot in the dark. And let me preface this by saying this is not signed, sealed, and delivered yet. This is still a very much work in progress, and no papers have been signed. But
we're speaking it into existence.
We're speaking it into existence now, and I keep talking about it as if it exists already, because you both have taught me that. You both have taught me that, because I am not letting anything. I don't care if it's money. I don't care if I go bankrupt trying to put funds together for this, but I am doing everything in my power to make this happen. So I am now in the process of buying not one bar studio, but two. And they are sister studios. The numbers make a lot of sense to me. Finally, I found something that, I could live off of, but like also fulfill my dreams of being like a studio owner, but not a one-time studio owner, two-time studio owner, and giving that like love to double the amount of clients and double the exposure. And
Marissa,
I can't tell you.
If you are ever having a tough day on this journey, watch this podcast back and look at your face when you talk about how you feel when someone finishes a class. It will remind you of your why, and that's all the fuel you will need to keep daydreaming, because our imaginations are the most effective manifestation tools that we all have. And too often we're using them to worry and to regret. So we're actually ruminating on the things we don't want to happen the most. which is
Hmm.
the same energy as praying for them. So, what you are doing by speaking this into existence, by dreaming it, by seeing it in full technicolor, is you're bringing it on bigger, faster, and like more realistically. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's what I have to keep doing because I know that if I say, oh, it might not happen, or I don't know if it's going to happen. I've even had, listen, our mother even said, I'm really worried about you. I think this is a bad decision. And like that, if that impacted me immediately, I was like, oh my God, like you don't believe in me? Like, how can I even believe in myself? And then,
Then you remembered she's an Italian mom from the Bronx and it's her job to worry, so stop thinking
yeah,
about it.
but I do
But that's a good
remember the
point
tools
because
I've,
talking about, you said in your 20s when you were running on fumes and you had no self care, and now you have tools. Okay, you have this dream. Your mom says something that pokes a hole, and you can either take it as a tiny hole or have it deflate everything. At this stage in your life, what do you do to shore up that hole and pump yourself up again? What's your tool? What's your go to tool? Actually, this is perfect because we ask every single person what is now your non negotiable go to tool for self regulation.
I just keep my vision and passion front and center. That's my tool. Is that if I let other people infiltrate my head and my headspace and say like you can't do this, it there's no space for that. There's no space to allow that in. And while it's hard when the people that you respect and admire the most poke holes into it. It's hard to overcome that. I have to ground myself in remembering my why. And my why is that I kind of wrote this purpose, and like my purpose is to empower women to be the best versions of themselves through using fitness and movement and mindfulness as like a triple thread, like to center themselves and make them feel whole again.
If there's anything I can say in the in watching this process unfold for you, and especially now that you're on the show, a show that is like top rated on that network, TLC, and um, you're a prime character on the show. I hate to call you a character because it's your real life, but that's how they're describing it. But there's a tremendous amount of criticism that comes with being on a reality show. Like people are just
Oh yeah.
vicious. They say awful things for no good reason. Like the trolls are out there just ripping people apart for nothing. I mean, I remember you said, I knew that like they were going to have things to say about my character because that's the nature of it, but I never thought they would attack my appearance or talk about how old I look or what my hair or like they're going for the jugular on every possible level. And like she has stayed so steadfast. I as someone who, I'm I think less consumed with like the public eye because I'm not as much in the public eye as you ever were. I have a hard time reading them and it's not even about me. So I'm like out there wanting to like punch the whole internet in the face. And she's
Did
just
want
like,
to punch the whole we
I
were
want to
on
punch
a
the
retreat
whole internet.
in like the most peaceful place and she wanted to punch the whole internet.
Well, it's because like, the big sister in me comes out. Like, that's my little sister you're talking about. I'll kill you. Like that's the old Jen. But then I had to remember like their energy doesn't need to affect me. And if it's not affecting my sister, if she's put up her shield around that and she's able to say, this is not my truth, who I am is who I am, and I don't have to apologize for it or worry about someone else's opinion of me because it doesn't matter. I only have to worry about my why and like what you were just saying, like keep yourself focused on your goals. That right there is the evidence that this journey and these practices that you've embodied now are you. This is your story, this is your truth, this is who you are, and no one's getting past that. The wall for those kinds of energies are that wall is up, and the only time that the door or the gate opens is when the good stuff comes in and nothing else.
Yeah.
That's all you have
Yeah.
space for.
Yeah.
It's
And
it's impressive, it's incredible.
yeah, and to layer onto that, and this goes also back to Joanna, what is your tool? I think my tool is because listen, I'm not perfect. I'm still a human, and I still when the comments first started coming out, I still was like, "Oh my God, I feel horrible. Like, do I need a facelift?" Like people were commenting a lot that I look so much older than my actual age. And I wasn't prepared for that, and I started to really take that to heart. It was like a day or two that I was really like you know,
It's only the
And
second episode that's out. When we're filming this, it's only been 2 episodes.
I know, but when the first one came out, it was brutal. And
Yeah.
the people are still brutal. But my tool is, and this goes for when my mom tried to say like, are you sure that I'm worried about you? Is this a bad decision? Or when somebody talks about my looks or like questions my character, my tool is remember who the fuck you are. You got this far in your life, not because people handed you shit and not because your life was easy, but because you overcame so much. And if people don't like the wrinkles on my face or, the sunken cheekbones or whatever, they could go fuck themselves. And you stand proud in your shoes. That's my tool
That
because
is a
nobody could
great
ever take that
tool.
away from me.
There's something I call, some people are the tell me people in your life and some people are the show me people. And in your case, it's more exaggerated because you have people you don't even know who are keyboard warriors who probably will not go after their own dreams because it's safer to criticize other people who are going after theirs. So there is no real good that comes in the comment section. If occasionally there's a really kind thing, let someone else tell you, but go and do your things and let those keyboard warriors just stay where they are on the keyboard. But in
Yeah.
our real lives, like when your mom made that comment, often the comments we get from the people that we love and are so close to, the ones that maybe sting, when they're said out of a feeling of love or a desire to protect. My parents, they love
Of
sewing
course.
and
Yeah.
they often love with worry. My mom is a crazy anxious traveler, so she gets vicarious travel angst from her living room. My dad is a worrier by nature, so the two of them, when they collaborate on the worries, it gets bigger. So I remember when I found I needed a place and I was looking for a place and it was a crazy COVID real estate market and it was November and I said, Dad, I just need to have the keys to the place we're buying, close and have it by the time I come home from Christmas. And he had been a real estate lawyer my whole life. And he said, your timeline is unrealistic. Saying unrealistic to me is like punching me right in the face. Jen knows that's one of my curse words. Like, there's no such thing as realistic. So don't try to squash my dreams. Everything sounds impossible till someone does it. And I
Mm.
also knew the timeline of real estate in Florida wasn't the same as New York, but I know that telling him more would do nothing in that moment. So I just said, okay, love you. Bye. Shored up my vision, focused on it, dreamed of it, just kept seeing the result. And I knew for him, I could tell him till I was blue in the face, or I could find the place, buy it, close, and go home with the keys for Christmas. And I did. So in those moments, we're better off just saying thank you, recognizing it's said with love, it comes from love, shaking off the ick, which Jen helped me do an exercise of shaking in the beginning of this. And actually, let's do our exercise now. Are you down? Normally, we ask permission from our guests if they're down to do a regulation tool. But in this case, since you're family, we're definitely allowed to bully you into it no matter what you said.
No, absolutely. I was
Okay.
waiting for this.
And this is an easy one because you have everything you need, which is you. And you're everywhere you need to be, which is seated in a comfortable spot. So just take a breath. Exhale. Let's place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and close your eyes for a moment. Because Marissa, your story is really about learning to trust yourself again. And especially women, when we spend years abandoning ourselves for performance, relationship, approval, the nervous system can forget what inner safety actually feels like. So we're just going to feel your feet on the floor. Feel the hand that's on your belly, the hand that's on your heart. Take a deep, slow inhale through your nose. And exhale through your mouth. And bring to mind that version of you that was constantly questioning your own choices. But instead of judging her, just imagine sitting beside her. Repeat slowly. I am allowed to choose differently.
I am allowed to choose differently.
I do not need everyone's approval to trust myself.
I do not
need everyone's approval
to
to trust myself.
My life is mine to live.
My life is mine to live.
I can disappoint others and still belong.
I could disappoint others
and still belong.
I am safe inside my own decisions.
I'm safe inside my own decisions.
Now notice your body. Notice your breath. Notice what softened. Release your hands. Slowly let your eyes open on their own. Marissa, what'd you notice?
My jaw unclenched, my forehead relaxed, the back of my neck softened, and I felt more safe. Is that the word I wanted to say? I felt safe with,
safe.
Yeah, with who I am and what I'm doing.
My favorite part of that meditation, and all meditations where you connect with a part of yourself, either a past version of you or even in the present version of you that's uncertain or insecure or unsure, is reminding yourself that, and this is something that someone once said to me and it stayed with me and will always stay with me, is that you will never leave you. The whole world can come crumbling down, but you will always have your back. And that version of you, that higher self, that intuitive you, the part of you that is eternal and that is connected to the divine, for lack of a better word, for however you consider it, source or the universe or God or whatever, that version of you is always with you, protecting you and guiding you, that voice that's inside. And when you were saying earlier, Marissa, that meditation helps you to tap into connecting again with yourself, that's the key, because you have all your own answers. External information is always going to be there and always going to come, and it sometimes is right and sometimes it's wrong, but that voice inside, that voice is always right if you listen to it, and you listen to, and you can hear it, you can teach yourself to hear it. So I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of everything that you've done and who you've become and always have been, even when you were my brattiest little sister. And now you're just this amazing woman that I not only look up to, but consider one of my best friends. But now it is time for what we call the magical mason jar. And we are going to ask you a random question. I don't know what it is or who wrote it, but Joanna loves this part, so you have to participate. Are you ready?
Yes.
I do love this part because it's only going to get weirder. When we always say the magical mason jar is filled with questions from our subscribers. Since the podcast is about 3 minutes old, the first episode, the subscribers were my 8-year-old and his playdate. Last time I had a friend who had a day off and was so inspired. Thank you, Lucia. She started texting me a flood of questions and I wrote them all down and put them in here. But as we continue, it's going to be amazing because we said often our conversations here could get pretty heavy and pretty deep. So we like that the questions in the mason jar come out of left field. So let's see what we get.
After you get your question, your job at the end of this for next time is to send us questions for our next guest.
Okay.
You are brilliant sometimes, Jen.
Sometimes I'm so smart, I scare myself. Go ahead.
That was like so one of them. Oh, this is a perfect one. considering where we are right now and what's going on in your life as a new reality TV star. What's something about you that most people get wrong?
That is a good one. That was going to be one of my questions. And we didn't get to it. So, well, we know it's your age.
I'm not 65, I promise. I think that who I am in like the business and career world, and even like what I portray to, those who don't know me closely, is that I have a very hard exterior. I'm all business. I'm a boss bitch. But
You do. I'm shaking no, but you do.
I do have this like, tough exterior to those that don't really know me, or like that's how they see me, like, at face value. But I am very sensitive. I'm very empathetic, and
Affectionate. You're
um,
very affectionate.
I'm affectionate, and I really have such an interest in um, people's lives and making them feel seen. But I don't think that comes off like right away. Like I really do care about the well-being of others and making them feel comfortable in this world. But I don't know if everybody gets that right away from me. You have to really be in some type of a relationship with me, friendship, relationship, family member.
Okay. That's the way it is. They have to earn it. I know, Joanna. I know. I'm the same way. I know. It
No
definitely is in the
similarities
blood.
here.
I know.
Nothing to look at.
Tough exterior, soft inside.
Can't
Yeah.
relate.
And, I wasn't always like this either, because like Jen has always been like the tough, like, scary one. And I was always the softer one. But I think as I've evolved in my life, and like I've had to build walls around me. I've had to like develop a tougher exterior. I think that kind of like takes the forefront sometimes when people first meet me. And then I soften as I feel safer. But yeah, like just like I have a very strong like calling to like make people feel safe in my presence, to make people feel like they matter. Yeah.
It shows. Now I've seen you in action. It shows.
There's
Thanks, Jen.
something, and in the perfect way of closing this sisterhood highlighted amazing episode is Jen and I were just on back-to-back retreats we were leading. And at the end of the first one, we sat around a table, a group of women, and we were talking about what we wanted to take home from the experience. And universally, the answer had something to do with how sacred it is when women connect with each other, when you experience that community, that village, and that almost all of them realized they had been holding on to something alone, a story, a pain, a trauma, a difficulty, a challenge that they realized they never had to hold alone. So everything we go through as people, but especially as women, we go through with more joy, with more love, with more compassion and passion when we don't carry all the burdens and carry them alone. So
Mm,
everything you shared tonight, that experience of when you realized that it didn't have to be by yourself and what the value it added in your life, and now the value you're going to add in others by creating another space for that kind of community, that kind of connection, and that kind of empowerment. I mean, if we didn't already build an entire brand on that, we'd say, like, we can attest that it's an amazing idea. It's an
mhm,
amazing idea. It is the
mhm.
best kind of goal to commit to and the most satisfying to see come to fruition.
Yeah, 100%. And I have to thank the both of you for influencing my life in that way, in helping to understand just the power of like the self-regulation. Even, Jen and Joanna, you were right when you said you have to take Jen's sound meditation. Like, and I was always kind of like, oh, I don't know, I don't have time, like I don't know what this is all about. Did one, like, and I'm like, when can you come back and do another one? Because that that experience and even doing it with this group of women that like they were all unsure of like, what is this? We don't know. And then like the feedback at the end, it's like we were all part of this one magical force that like felt something. And it's like in the beginning, like I could see a shift in like people's personalities. They were kind of like weird and like not friendly in the beginning. And then at the end, we were like joking and laughing and like hugging and exchanging numbers. And um, I love the work that you guys are doing. I think that it is so important. I'm following in suit behind, in my sister's footsteps in many ways of like, really exploring the power of self-regulation, manifestation, taking care of yourself, taking
Well,
care of everything from head to toe.
when you open your 2 bar studios, we will be right there to not only celebrate with you, but then to also have events with you and to be part of your community
Yes.
and bring all the magic there, because your magic and our magic go like beautifully together. So,
And nothing would make me happier. I want everybody, like, because my mission now is like, I'm going to use you guys because you serve my mission in many ways. And I hope that I could do the same for you.
yeah, we're going to bring you on retreat. We're going to have you teach a bar class.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I would love that.
Absolutely.
And now with you two tough nuts, I'll be the big sister and on the grand opening nights crying visibly while you two are like, this is fine. I'll be like, she should just be so proud of herself.
I love you guys. You're the best. This was so fun. I can't thank you enough for inviting me to be on.
Well, it was fun for us too. Thanks for
I love
joining
talking
us.
about myself. So,
There'll be more opportunity, not to worry. All right, we have to wrap this up. Marissa, thank you so much for joining us. And again, everyone, tune in 90 Day Fiancé to see Marissa shine. Don't be mean to her. I'll punch you and the whole internet. But she's amazing.
Sundays at 8, every 8
Sundays
p.m.
at
every
8.
Sunday, TLC.
And we will be back also to share when her bar studios are open so that you can flood over there and try to get a spot in one of her classes.
Yes. And when she's now that she's coming with us on all of our retreats to lead these classes, you'll see her there on TLC and at her studio. Marissa all the time.
Yeah, come watch us on becollectiveglobal.com and you'll find her there too. So thank you so much, everyone. Time to sign off. Everyone have a good night. Over and out.
Good night.
Good night.
If you'd like more, join us on one of our retreats to fabulous locations or the at-home version. But either way, DM us your questions for the Magical Mason Jar.
And subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thank you for joining us on Regulate to Elevate.